You're listening to the Screaming Pods Network.
If there's one place that loves their cars and loves driving around, it's Metro Detroit.
The D!
It's the D, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that's like the birth of auto manufacturing.
Oh my gosh. Just the number of automotive plants and
There's
corporate
no
offices.
public transportation. That infrastructure does not exist.
No. I mean, they have the people mover, but...
It's piss poor. Like, it sucks.
It's awful. It's awful.
But, like, yeah, all the highways, if you've ever been driving down, like, actually in Detroit on the just labyrinth of highways intersecting each other down there, it's intimidating. You had quite the commute for a little while.
So we lived off of exit 89, and my office was literally off of 69. So it was a 20-mile stretch, and it was nothing but aggravating bumper-to-bumper traffic. And then if you happen to catch a lane open on a good day, you're like swerving in and out of all of these cars that are just trying to stay ahead of one another. It's like people driving down in the Metro Detroit area have something to prove.
Yeah, I always felt like everybody was trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it felt like every single time.
I would literally kiss the ground when I would get home. I'm really shocked. I must be a really good driver. I got into one little fender bender.
Well, you really got to be on the offensive. Like,
Yeah.
It is truly everybody else out there. I mean, I've said it before and I'll say it again. People are scary.
Yeah.
You know, we'll talk about ghosts. We'll talk about aliens. We'll talk about Sasquatch.
But yeah, you add that human element to it, and it's almost, you don't know what to expect from a stranger. You don't know who somebody is. You don't know who these hundreds of people driving next to you every day are.
Could be the next Ted Bundy or Charles Manson.
That's right. My name is Jill.
And my name is Ben.
And you're joining us at The Fire. We're a storytelling podcast that likes to share your scary stories.
That's correct.
And if you're joining us for the first time, welcome.
This episode, we're sharing stories all about the strangers on the road, the fast.
But mostly furious. Yeah, road rage. We're talking road rage. We got stalkers. The road is a scary place, and not just because you could potentially hit someone.
It's the only public place where you sort of literally have a protective bubble, and you're with all these other people just in these metal cases traveling at, these really fast speeds.
You're essentially driving a giant bomb. It's not a protective bubble.
Yeah.
Your car's not a protective bubble.
It's got a big old tank of accelerant strapped to the bottom of it.
You hit that thing just right. But we're not trying to steer you off the road tonight.
Yeah, if you're in your car, stop. Just walk home.
You know what I thought of, though, just now? Do you remember when somebody was driving around the highway with a gun just shooting at random cars?
Oh, yeah. That
happened here in Michigan.
75. That was I-75, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Down by Detroit.
See, people are No, I think it was closer to... Oh, maybe it was... I think it happened at Kazoo, too. Or by Kalamazoo.
Yeah, possibly.
Who knows? If you're interested in looking that up, I'm sure it's all over the internet. I know we've talked about how dangerous strangers can be when road tripping. What if you're driving down the street to a friend's house? Or what if you're just going a few minutes down the road? Or what if only just a 3-hour-long weekend upstate?
Our first story this evening comes to us from a guest storyteller by the name of Daniel. He shares how his reaction to one driver's bad move almost cost him his life.
That morning we had made plans to go with some friends to a city about 3 hours east of Portland called Bend. And so we were on our way to Gresham, which is a neighboring city. It's like a suburb of Portland, to meet them there. The stretch of road that we were driving on was just a really busy, city-like road. It's a large avenue, and it had a fair amount of traffic since it's Saturday morning, and everyone uses that road to go out to the Columbia River Gorge and other outdoorsy places that Portlanders love. And so we're on our way there when everything happened. So we were driving along this road. I think it's one of those roads that's just like 30 miles per hour. It's pretty busy. There's some intersection with another large avenue every 3 or so blocks. And as we're passing this area that is pretty well known for larger crime activity, which I guess is a context that's important, we got cut off by a man in a white Chrysler that was to our right. We were in the left lane. He cuts us off and then brake checks me. And I had an innate reaction to immediately, obviously brake, honk the horn, and then flip him off. That obviously provoked him, and he immediately swings back to the right side of my vehicle and rolls down his window, which was tinted, and begins to yell stuff at the car. I had the windows up, so I couldn't really hear what he was saying. And I thought he was just, a normal case of road rage. So I, instead of really trying to calm him down or anything, I just kind of waved at him, smiled, gave him a thumbs up, and tried to continue driving on, which in retrospect was a stupid move. Once he got further aggravated, he reached down and grabbed something in his car. I think it was a glass bottle, and he throws it at my car. And mind you, we're still driving at around 35 miles an hour down this really busy avenue. And in that moment, my girlfriend, Lizzie, she's sitting in the passenger seat with our dog, Oliver, and she screams, and Oliver gets scared and hides under the seat. And I begin to, go into adrenaline mode and start thinking of all my options. So I begin driving more aggressively, trying to get away from him. He starts following. He grabs another bottle, I'm guessing it was a bottle, and throws it at the car. And then that's when I told Lizzie to call 911. So she begins calling 911, and I start racing down a side street, up a hill to somewhere where I thought maybe we could lose him. He quickly follows and is still clearly screaming from behind us, trying to get me to pull over. He's making gestures for me to pull over. And then when we get to the top of the hill, there's a light, and it's a red light. And we stop. And as I'm stopped there at this very steep hill, he begins to get out of the car, and I go into overdrive mode, and I'm thinking, how are we going to get away from here? Immediately, I'm considering backing up into him. I'm considering getting out of the car myself. But as soon as he gets out of the car, I see him put something in his shorts, and he's probably 6'3", 6'5". He's wearing I think it was a Bulls, just like those basketball caps, and it had the Chicago Bulls symbol on the top. He's got basketball shorts on, I want to say a tank top, and is walking aggressively towards us. I've been in situations before where there's been a threat of violence, but not where there's my significant other with me, my puppy, nothing like that. So I immediately didn't go into an aggressive mode, which I think I would have normally done. I would have thought of I keep a stick in the back just in case, all of these things. I would have thought of that, but this time I didn't even think of that. I was just too scared for the other people in my car to even consider getting out of the car and putting them in further danger. My number one feeling was just escape, escape, escape. The lady that was on the phone at this time with us, the 911 receptionist, I guess, she tells us, don't engage, come meet us somewhere. And I'm trying to describe to her what this man looks like, the man's license plate, as well as where we are, all at the same time as thinking, what am I going to do right now as he's walking up toward me? And then as soon as he gets to the side of the car, I gun the car and I try to run this red light and continue up the hill. We made it across safely, thank goodness, but then he immediately gets into his car and begins, gunning it down the road towards us. that's when things started getting even scarier because Lizzie is at this point completely hysterical. I'm also pretty panicked, and the dog is scared and nowhere to be seen under the seat. The lady that we were talking to on the 911 tells us come to the police station and try to get him there. I didn't know Gresham as well as I did Portland, so I wouldn't know where the police station was. She tells me where it is, and it's still another 15-minute drive time away. And so I'm trying to think of how I'm going to get this guy over there, at the same time keep us safe and try to really get away. We're still going down this road at about 45, 50 miles an hour, and this is a stretch of road that I think was marked for 30. It's another large avenue. Now we're facing a completely different direction than we were originally going, and I'm trying to figure out how to get to the police station. He continues gunning it toward us. He again pulls up to the side, yells at me to pull over. We get to a red light. He jumps out of his car again. He starts coming towards our car. I immediately again gun it, run this red light a second time, and continue down the avenue at a really high speed. He again gets into his car, catches up to us really quickly, tries to brake check me again, tries to push me off the side of the road. The entire time, the lady on the 911 was telling us not to engage, to keep coming toward the police station. Finally, we stop at an even busier intersection, and this time I'm completely surrounded by cars. There's a car in front of me, a car behind. He was behind me, and then, to our left and right in the other lanes. And so he gets out of his car. The people around us start rolling up their windows because he's still yelling across the street. And he pulls up to the car, and I can't do anything at this point. And just knocks on the window, and he yells through the window, which I could finally make out. Do we have a problem? Do we have a problem? Come on out. Do we have a problem? I adamantly am gesturing and saying, no, we don't have a problem. We don't have a problem. Lizzie is crying in the passenger seat, and the lady on the phone, the 911 operator, she was telling me not to engage him. I'm like, how? He's literally, standing at my driver's side window, screaming in my face. And Lizzie is crying. And of course, I'm pretty frightened. I could hop off and try to take this guy on, but in my mind, that doesn't seem like a good idea. He obviously had a lot going on, but as far as, a violent tendency to actually beat up some 20-year-olds, this guy definitely was much older than us. And so I'm trying not to look him in the eye, but, trying to let him know that indeed there is no problem. He can move on with his life. And he's still screaming at the car, is there a problem? Is there a fucking problem? And I, again, continue screaming back at him. The operator is still screaming, don't engage. The lights finally turn green. I gun it again, and he hits the side of my car with his fist as we're driving off, and he jumps back into his car. We finally, again, meet at one last light, and at this point, we're 1 block away from the actual police station where the operator was telling us that there were already officers there waiting for us. I am trying to, at this point, serve some kind of justice and get him there. And so he comes again right next to our car. We're stopped at this light. He this time doesn't get down. He just rolls down the window. He screams, is there a fucking problem? I say no one more time. I'm guessing he was familiar with the area at this point because he simply said, good, don't fucking flip me off, and then pulled a U-turn and in the middle of this red light and drove away. And that was the last we saw him. Some of the people that I spoke to said that he might have been on something. I couldn't tell, honestly, mostly because I was concentrated on how do we stay safe in this situation and not whether or not his eyes looked like they were bugging out. But he clearly had some kind of issue going. I've never, I've gotten flipped off while driving before. I'm sure, everyone has at some point and has flipped other angry drivers off before. I've never, especially in Portland, is the West Coast is notoriously just a passive area, especially this up north. People don't care. They don't give you enough energy to do anything. They never want to do anything as far as aggression is concerned. And this guy definitely, it was not in that vibe at all. I don't know if I've run into someone who is already known here to not be messed with. I shouldn't have definitely not flipped them off, but like at the same time, I didn't know. This all happened actually last Saturday, I guess. Not the last Saturday, the Saturday before last. And I'm generally not someone who would scream or flip someone off or anything. I don't know why this time it just happened. Definitely never going to do it again. It's just, you never know who's going to be on the other side of that steering wheel. You don't know what that person's going through that day. You don't know where they come from or who they are. And there's people that are willing to do anything to get what they think is right for them or justice in their mind, like this guy. Definitely never going to flip someone off again. Someone told me that what they do instead is just give them a thumbs up, and I think I'm going to start trying to do that now. Just be careful and be nice.
Has anything like that ever happened to you?
I'm trying to think. No. No, I'm generally just a very, I guess, passive driver. I really do drive like an old woman.
I mean,
I don't know if that's a derogatory thing to say.
Yeah, don't be hating.
I'm sure there are some
elders
there's
and
some
ladies.
There's some older women, I'll say it that way, who love the speed, and I don't. That's a weird way to say that. Put the pedal to the metal.
Off, Ben. You're cut off. I can attest the fact that you're a pretty passive driver. You just don't get mad in general. You're a pretty easygoing guy.
I prefer like, hey, if you want to go faster, then I'm gonna slow down so you can go around and do that.
I actually tried Daniel's thumbs up trick when we were located downstate, and in my opinion, it seemed to make people a little more upset.
Yeah.
So just no gesture's the best gesture.
Everybody needs to just slow down, if you ask me. I mean, that's why you get traffic jams. Everyone's driving too close to each other and driving too fast.
Right.
That's how it happens.
Right.
I won't lecture you.
What do you think that guy put in his pants?
Dude, it was obviously a weapon. If it was a gun, or I don't know if he, like Daniel said, he carries a stick. Like, I used to work with somebody who lived in Portland, and I think he had a hammer in his car. Because you never know. Like, you have to be prepared.
Portland seems like the place of dreams. I've never been.
Hey,
but
there's crime everywhere.
I know, but Fred and Carrie on Portlandia make it seem like such a warm and friendly community.
Yes. We have to remember, television is not reality.
I know. You just totally burst my bubble.
I'm sorry. It does seem like a hip place, but yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to have its seedy parts just like every other place.
So I wonder how unique Daniel's car was. I mean, if there were any like bumper stickers or identifying marks on the vehicle, wouldn't he be at risk for that person to track him down?
Exactly. I guess he said he was unfamiliar with the area. It's not somewhere he goes often. It could have been somebody like, exactly like he said, who is well known in the area, and maybe he pissed off the wrong person. But yeah, what if this guy recognized his car?
Right. So when I was in high school and college, I think I may have mentioned before that I had a pretty unique car. It was very customized. I actually bought it off of eBay. It was a little silver Hyundai Tiburon. It was all souped up, had pure like 100% window tint. It was crazy. You couldn't see through those windows if you put your eyes right up to the glass.
Weren't you pulled over for it before?
I got pulled over like all the time for the window tint. It had Lamborghini doors, but the biggest identifying trait was my license plate.
Was it a vanity plate?
It was a vanity plate that said, of all things, stay fly.
Oh, yes.
So I would get pulled over not only for the window tint, but I think the police used to like think that some hooligan would be driving around in this car.
It's pretty.
I would get
tinted out
tailed
windows
all
and-
of the time, and then they find out it's registered to like my dad in his 60s. So half the time,
Retired veteran. Oh,
yeah, so they'd pull me over all of the time. But that's not even the worst part about having the car. The worst part about having that car and that vanity plate was seeing it pop up on random people's news feeds on Facebook. I'd have friends like send me text messages as screenshots of their friends' Facebook saying, "Oh my gosh, this person took a picture of your car." And people, when Snapchat started to get big, people would say, "Hey, I saw your car on so-and-so Snapchat the other day." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I kind of felt like a hometown celebrity."
But
it was kind of cool.
at the same time, it's sort of weird.
Yeah, I mean, I got, like, kids would come up to me with their moms and ask if they can open up my car, and kids would, like, sit in the front seat, and moms would be like, "Oh, this is Batman's car," and I mean, it generated so much interest. It got kind of weird. Like, I remember this one kid in college who lived on one of the same dorm floors as I did at some point, had the same car, but it wasn't souped up. And he thought just because, like, I had the souped up car, I knew stuff about it, so he would use it as an excuse to talk to me. And I obviously had no interest in talking to this kid. It opens up the door. It's a can of worms, really, for people to think that they have a right to, like, encroach on you.
It's the risk you run. I mean, having a car that sticks out. I mean, if you have what do you call them, Lambo doors, if you have a license plate
Lamborghini
that
doors.
reads "Stay Fly," I mean, every time you enter and exit that vehicle, you turn heads.
I'm making a statement.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'll admit, I do love attention. I like all eyes on me, but to a certain degree. And that was the case for one Redditor, Flaro Lover, who had us share her story when her unique car helped a stalker stay hot on her trail. So it was 2015. I was in my second year of university, and I lived at home, and I just drove to class since it was only 15 minutes away. I lived in a condo, and it was pretty upscale, situated right at an intersection, so when you exit the parking garage, you'd have to sit and wait at a signal. I had an expensive car that my parents had bought me, and it often stuck out. My city's pretty safe, though, so I've never felt threatened, and I often drove with my windows down. I mean, it was the fall, so everything was quite peaceful and chill. One morning, when I was coming out of the parking garage, I was waiting at the signal to turn left, and a Jaguar drove up beside me. I didn't think anything of it, and I continued to listen to my music. And then I see him roll down his window and gesture to get my attention. I thought he needed directions or wanted to get in my lane, so I turned the volume down, and without even turning my head, he goes, "You are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen." Flattered, but not interested, since I had a boyfriend, I said, "Thanks." Before university, I'd been to an all-girls private school in another country, so I had really little experience with guys flirting or getting compliments like that from strangers. He insisted that I give him my number so that we could go out for coffee sometime. When I said no thanks and repeated that I had a boyfriend, he kept insisting that I give him my number. And now people on the sidewalk are looking because he's yelling so loudly through his car to mine. I just kept wishing that the signal would change, and I didn't know what to do, so as an inexperienced young woman who watched way too much TV, I decided to just give him a fake number. Bad idea. He took it on his phone, and thank God the signal opened up, so I booked it out of there, and I'm guessing that he turned right. And when I got to class, I totally texted all of my friends about it, and we just laughed at how he'd called the number and find out it wasn't mine. But a few days later, it was the weekend, and two of my friends and I decided to see a movie at the theater across the street. And if anyone knows Mississauga downtown, they know that everything is in the same area. The theater, the mall, the community center, everything. So we were sitting in the concessions area, waiting for a theater to open, And that guy walks up to me and he's like, "Oh, hey, I tried calling you. I think I got a number wrong because it kept going to some old lady." And I'm just shocked because at this point, I didn't think much of it because we're still in my neighborhood and it's possible to run into him. But once again, I reiterate that I have a boyfriend and I wasn't interested. My friends started to get protective too. They could probably see my body language, so one of them steps up and says, "Hey, buddy, she's not interested. Her boyfriend's coming any minute now, and you don't want to meet him." And he mumbled something that I couldn't hear and just says he'll see me later. And this is the point where I start to get a little creeped. For the next few days, I see him every morning at the signal. Somehow he knows my timings and he gets lucky enough to get right beside me every time. I've started driving with my windows up at this point, and I have my sunglasses on every day so he doesn't see my expression. He honks. He rolls his windows down. One day he got really close to the side of my car and he yells something, and I tried my best to ignore him. However, I can't really do much because he's technically not doing anything illegal. And here's another problem. I know he lives near me. My parking garage is shared by my building and another building, so I don't know which one he lived in, and I can't report him to building security because they're pretty useless anyway and just don't care. I didn't know what to do. The final straw was when I was in my university library trying to get books for an essay. I'm in the quiet zone, working near the aisle, when I noticed a guy looking at me from the sofa area. I'm not very good with far sight, and I just thought the person was spaced out like many others in the library, but I was curious why this person wouldn't look away after a while. So I asked the guy beside me to take a picture of me, and I thought that we could get the guy in the shot and I'd be able to zoom in and take a better look. The student complied, and I zoomed in. And it's him. This guy, he's at least 28 to 34 years old. He looks nothing like a student, no bag or anything near him, so there's no way he's here for the books. Coincidences don't happen this often, and at this point, I'm freaked. I'm really freaked, so I go to the front desk with the books that I had, and as I checked out, I tell the girl what's happening, and she graciously arranged for the senior librarian, a 6-foot-tall man, to escort me to my car. I'm paranoid the whole car ride home. How did he find me? My university is close. 15 minutes away, but it's not that close. It involves quite a few turns, and he really doesn't look like a student. After about a week of this pulling up next to me at the signal bullshit, I finally tell my boyfriend and parents about it. My parents freak out. They live in another country as expats, so it's not like I could leave my home either. My parents and my boyfriend are all on a conference call with me discussing how this guy's probably following me. My boyfriend suggests maybe it's because of my car. Personally, I've only seen 1 or 2 of them in my city, and the color is rose gold, so literally anyone could spot me. It wouldn't be that hard for him to follow the only rose gold car in the city. And they come up with the idea of me switching my car with my boyfriend for the next few weeks. And then I'll just leave for class 2 hours before my normal schedule to throw him off a bit. We tint my boyfriend's car so the creep doesn't spot me in the new car. My boyfriend also gets my car tinted. The plan works. I no longer see him, and I really do think he was following my car around. Maybe he'd even go to local hangout spots and check the parking lots to see if he could spot my car. Either way, for the next few weeks, it all works out and everything's fine. Then, one day, while I'm heading to the gym, I get a call from my boyfriend. That creep is following him in my car. My car's tinted at this point, so he doesn't know it's my boyfriend in there and not me. My boyfriend says he's calling the cops and tells me to use the Find My Friend feature to keep an eye on where he's heading, just in case anything happens. I'm really worried at this point, but after a few hours, I heard back. After my boyfriend had called the police, dispatch said that the cops wanted him to drive to the mall parking lot. There's a police station right there, and a cop could come out to his car in just plain clothing to ward off suspicion. The creep was, of course, following my boyfriend, and the cop affirmed this. He approached the creep and then apprehended him. The cops threatened him with stalking, took down his info, and gave him a serious warning. My boyfriend had gotten out of the car by then, and the creep stared daggers the entire time. he was never able to find me again. And my parents, in the meanwhile, had worked out to get me moved into a new home outside of downtown, in a more affluent neighborhood where I wouldn't stick out too much. I've also changed my license plate. I still have tint, but I've changed my car's color so it's a little more neutral. Sometimes standing out can get you into trouble.
So this is a situation I've never feared while on the road.
What, being stalked?
Yeah, I've never, well, I guess like in this situation, like I've never thought someone's going to pull up and be like, oh, I gotta get that one's number. Like, you know, like that, I feel like that doesn't just happen. It's more likely
it's premeditated for sure.
It's more likely to happen to a woman. Yeah, I feel.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're, I mean, like, well, I don't mean especially, but if you happen to have a vehicle that, you know,
I mean,
identifies you,
yeah,
like your car, or
like, oh, hey, cool car, must be an interesting person. Like, I wonder what
not
the story
only
is.
Yes, is it a conversation starter, but it's like it's a way to spot you from a distance.
Oh yeah, like guys used to come up to me at gas stations when I was pumping gas, and I mean, they wouldn't even see my license plate. It would just be the car itself. Like,
if you're at the grocery store and your car's in the parking lot, it's like, oh, I know where she's at.
Right. And people, once they see you getting in and out of the car, and if they see it multiple times, they start to recognize you as that car girl. Yeah, I've never been in a situation where I felt like I was being stalked or harassed, so I can't really say that I can relate to the situation. But it sounds damn horrifying. I mean, who knew what this guy is capable of? And like, props to the family for stepping up and trying to hash out a plan to get this whole thing squared away.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, if you consider it, what if this guy's personality intersected with the personality from Daniel's story? Like, that's a scary person to have stalking you.
And how many of those scary people are driving on the road right now? Hide your kids, hide your wives.
You tell them, Jill.
They're up here crowbarring everybody.
So if you've had an encounter out on the road, out walking around the city,
tell us. Oh, well, make sure that after you do some quick thinking on your feet, you safely find your way back to an area where you're not alone and somebody can harm you, and then submit your story to us.
Yeah, anything horrifying that's happened to you, help discuss it in the therapy that is at the fire.
We're here for you. We're actually providing a service, so you're welcome.
So if you feel compelled to do so, you can come to our website at thefire.com and find our menu at the top and hit the submissions link.
Or you can follow us on Twitter at _the_fire and just send me a direct message. Follow us, see what's going on in our world. We want to also thank Daniel and Reddit user Flower Lover again for letting us share their stories. Guys, scary, scary stuff. We're super happy that you made it out all right.
Yeah, definitely.
Daniel, you're a gem. You're welcome back anytime.
Yeah, Daniel, that is one of my worst nightmares. Like, just being in the wrong situation at the wrong time in traffic, man. Glad you made it out.
If you enjoyed today's episode, share with your friends. Help spread the word. We want to keep doing this for you guys. You guys are awesome. We love everyone who's given us support. You guys rock.
Yep, and if you are feeling like you need to do your one good deed for the day, go on over to iTunes and rate and review.
And on any streaming site, because guess what? You can find us on each and every one of them.
I don't know if they'll let you rate. They might.
Well, if they let you rate.
I actually don't know. I don't use many of them. You know, I know a lot of people just probably have one they like and use that. Like, that's what I do.
Yeah.
Whatever floats your boat. As always, my name is Ben.
And this is Jill. And wherever you're heading to, I hope you get there safely.
Drive safe. The music this episode was made possible by the following artists: The Custodian of Records, Ryan Little, Helly Kalin, Plurabelle, Saphir Nu, and Roz Cole. You can find their music and more on freemusicarchive.org.
listening to the Screaming Pods Network.